A bit of background about me. I've spent the last 15 years working for leading global media agencies, helping brands such as Diageo, Kellogg's and Arla Foods with their brand partnership, sponsorship and content strategies. And I've had lots of experience working across all media channels, from TV, radio, print, live events, digital and social media. But my biggest passion, of course, is food. And that led me to make an appearance on MasterChef 10 years ago, where I reached the quarterfinal. And that passion for food also drove me to co-found an award-winning B&B business with my husband. There's sort of a bit of a wall of fame behind us. We've achieved lots of accolades with the likes of the Sunday Times and Cotswold Lives. And most recently, for the last 8 months, I've been working as Chief Marketing Officer at Great British Chefs, premium food publisher. And I've worked with chefs like Marcus Waring, Asma Khan, Chantel Nicholson to develop amazing recipe content alongside brands and to consult with brands that want to connect with the UK's 13 million foodies. So that's a bit about me. Over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to share a whistle-stop tour of the sort of key trends affecting the food and culinary landscape, how consumer attitudes and behaviours are shifting, and how food businesses and brands will need to adapt to meet consumer demands now and in the future. I'm going to cover quite a lot of ground, and I'll move at pace, but there will be time at the end for some questions. So I'll kick off by just setting the table, I suppose. And for me, food is more than just an essential fuel for our bodies and our minds. It brings us happiness and joy, as these pictures of my 3-year-old son prove, who I think loves food more than I do. And any parent that's been at home with a small child during lockdown has probably heard the words, "I'm hungry, can I have a snack?" about 100 times a day. But genuinely, food has the power to bring people together, whether it be cooking of a meal together, dining out for a special occasion. It forms the key part of our celebrations at Christmas, at Easter, and it's a powerful social connector, and it can create lasting memories. I'm sure many of you can, reminisce about, that amazing dish you had on holiday, or the best meal that you've ever eaten, or what you loved to eat as a kid. And now that all our favourite restaurants and cafes and food outlets have closed, and our food supply chains have been disrupted, consumers have been forced to eat differently. And there have been some really positive learnings that I think that we can take from all of this. Interestingly, a recent study by YouGov suggested that only 9% of people want things to return to normal after the outbreak's over, and actually more than half hope that they'll make some lasting changes as a result of the crisis. So there's a great opportunity for food brands to establish an even more positive role in consumers' lives. And there's an opportunity, I think, for all of us just to slow down, to invest in the things we care about, and to use this crisis as a positive turning point. So before I get stuck in to some of the big trends that we've been seeing, I want to just do a little sort of snapshot of the current landscape and how technology is sort of fundamentally changing our relationship with food. So I often talk about how today people are putting phones before forks. Love it or loathe it, it's happening. People are discovering, researching, photographing, and even sharing their food before they decide to dig in. And these shifts in behaviour are impacting food brands and businesses every day. On average, people spend the equivalent of 35 days a year staring into their mobile phones. That figure's probably even higher because of the result of the last few months. But they're spending more time on apps and watching video. And obviously during the lockdown, that relationship with our phone has gone into overdrive, and we've seen massive growth across sectors in the food space, such as online grocery shopping, meal delivery solutions, as well as at-home recipe inspiration. And the stats speak for themselves. 70% of all consumers turn on to online services when they're looking for their next meal. 31% of millennials cook something after discovering it on social media, and 69% of millennials take a photo or a video of their food before eating it. And over half of people say that their mobile phone is the first place they go to just to decide on where they're going to eat. So it used to be, you know, in the sort of traditional media landscape, it used to be that TV ads and magazines and print were the first people's first encounter with new and exciting food products, restaurants and brands. And today, people often discover new foods on their mobile and through their social networks. And given the social nature that food plays, it's not a big surprise that food is the #1 trending interest on Instagram. There are over 1 million tweets a day on Twitter related to food, and Google continues to be the first place that people search for recipes. But what's also interesting, I think, is coupled with all of that, we've seen a real proliferation of small brands and a huge growth of private label and artisan products in the food space, which means the shelves are really crowded. In 2019, last year, there were over 2,600 new food and beverage items launched in the UK, which is according to Mintel. 23% of these were all plant-based, which is another trend we'll come on to later. But what's interesting is that 97% of all our F&B businesses in the UK are SMEs, who often have limited marketing budgets. So it's now even harder than ever to stand out on the shelf. But it's not just standing out on the shelf that you need to consider. Big and small brands are trying to grow their share and learning of how to be relevant in a mobile-first world. And this battle for relevance, growth, and share of stomach ultimately boils down to a battle for attention. Success is no longer just about launching the next trending food brand, getting listed, and hoping that you'll be discovered. Development of tech, with the development of tech, there's a fantastic opportunity to reach your consumers in more personalized ways and on their most personal devices, to build awareness early, to reach them at the exact point of consideration and foster loyalty. And this is great for small brands and small businesses. And if they can truly understand their consumer and how to harness the power of digital marketing, they've now got an amazing opportunity, a new route to market, which is not dictated to by the big supermarkets. But I think, you know, kind of coupled with all of this disruption in the digital space is this kind of counter feeling that there is this need to escape this crazy digital world that we all now live in, and there's a desire to ground ourselves in tradition and nostalgia and reconnect with what's important. And this is a trend that we're certainly seeing now, and I think creating products and experiences that can enable this comfort and give us a sense of belonging and community will only become more important. So that is just a quick snapshot, you know, of the current landscape and sort of some of the opportunities, I think, for small businesses that are looking to sort of launch and grow in the food space. But what are some of the main trends that we've been seeing? Some of these are have been supercharged by the pandemic of the last few months, but some have been, you know, bubbling away for quite some time. So I'm going to touch upon 3 key trends. The first one is around health-conscious lifestyles. Consumers are focusing now more than ever on health and well-being. And with the current crisis, you know, this has been completely supercharged. A study last year by Accenture showed that more than half of UK food shoppers now identify themselves as health conscious, and 66% of them closely monitor food ingredients. They're using apps like MyFitnessPal, Weight Watchers, and they're monitoring their nutritional intake. Brands are having to publish nutritional values on a lot of their products, and even restaurants now are having to adopt that approach. So, you know, that is a trend that's not going away and has only been heightened. The other big trend is the rise in meat-free consumption, and that is going mainstream. And if there's anyone out there watching that's a bit skeptical about, you know, the vegan movement, I urge you to watch an amazing documentary called Game Changers on Netflix, which has had a significant impact on people's views in this space. So much so that now 40% of people in the UK follow a flexitarian diet. And in a study recently by Hearst, showed that 44% of adults claim to be eating more vegetables than they were before lockdown. Indeed, this year, at the beginning of the year, saw over 400,000 people take part in Veganuary. So, you know, vegan, meat-free movements, massive trends and only going one way. There's also a massive appetite for natural, organic products. And I think there is a sense that for foodies particularly, they're prepared to pay for quality ingredients. They care about the sourcing of the ingredients and the provenance. And, you know, getting that story across to them is becoming increasingly more important. We're also seeing through this desire for a more healthy lifestyle that it's being supercharged by technology and personalization. So consumers now use tech to personalize their diet and health regimes. As a result, brands and businesses will need to think about how they offer more personalized product offerings. So I've got two examples which I wanted to share. First is Waitrose, a partnership with DNA Nudge, which works by taking an on-the-spot swab of your cheek and generates a personalized DNA report for the user based on their nutritional related health traits. Once they're tested, they can use a wristband that's connected to the app and scan over 500,000 products in store to access their suitability based on their personal genetic profile. Really clever stuff, and we're going to see more of it. The other cool piece of kit is a company called Teplo, who have developed the world's first connected teapot that brews tea based on your emotional state. It's got a thumb sensor. It tells you your heart rate, your temperature, the temperature in the room, and essentially will brew the perfect blend of tea. If you're a bit fatigued, you know, like the caffeine level, and brew it for longer to essentially sort of improve your mental alertness. Who would have ever thought that a cup of tea could be so complex? The second trend is around what are we seeing people doing in kitchens right now, and what's going on. So the first is that with millions of us confined to our homes, it goes without saying that people are cooking more than ever before. And a big trend has been bread making. And I don't know about any of you, but I've totally been swept up by this sort of sourdough craze. Indeed, Google saw a sort of almost 200% increase in searches for how to make a sourdough starter. My experience has definitely been hit and miss, but it's great to see that so many people have been embracing more artisan traditional cooking methods. We've also seen a resurgence of family meal times and taking more time over meals, which I hope is a trend that sticks. And while people can't go out to their favourite restaurants, they're recreating restaurant experiences at home. They're becoming more adventurous in the kitchen, and we've seen a massive rise in people making sushi and seeking out recipes such as street food, for example. And the kitchen's become increasingly connected because we can't socialise physically with our friends and family. People have been turning to platforms like Zoom and House Party to socialise with friends and family. And lots of brands have leaned into this to help try to enable consumers to socialise in more virtual ways. So a good example of this was a London brewery company called Signature Brew that launched a Pub in a Box, a delivery solution which includes a range of beers complemented by a virtual tasting session. Gusto hosted a virtual dinner party for 1 million people with Nick Grimshaw and raised over £40,000 for the Trust food banks as well. You know, appliance brands have been doing interactive demos of, you know, how to create the perfect coffee art on Zoom, teaching you how to get the most out of your coffee machine at home. And indeed, the future kitchen is going to be smart. You know, the trends for growth in smart appliances like smart fridges from Samsung is expected to really explode over the next 5 years. And we're also seeing more and more smart cooking devices like this device here is the Jules and Chef's Step sous vide. It's a connected sous vide device. So for precision cooking, you can literally cook a steak to your perfect lighting from an app on your phone. So you choose exactly the doneness that you want. For me, it would be medium rare for sure. You know, away you go. So really clever stuff, and we're going to see more and more of it. My final trend, and I'm conscious I'm running out of time, so I'm going to speed up, is around sustainability and the conscientious consumer. And in essence, today, to love food is becoming less simple. Gone are the times when we could simply enjoy cooking and eating without worrying about the environmental implications and health concerns. Today, people are increasingly questioning the ethics behind food production and how to make the right healthy choices. And I think this great pause that we've had has shone an even greater spotlight on this and our food supply chains. Last year, there was much debate about the impact of plastic waste, mainly driven by David Attenborough and his brilliant Blue Planet series. And in a study we did at Great British Chefs, we saw a 37% rise in people strongly agreeing that they were trying to reduce their plastic waste, and the fact that they'd actively avoid products that had excess packaging. We've also seen that a third of Brits are trying to reduce their food waste. So it's no big surprise that meal kit solutions and frozen meal companies such as Mindful Chef, Gusteau and All Plants have seen such significant rises over the last 12 months. And of course, COVID has accelerated this even further, with many of them seeing a boom. And people want to see action from brands. They expect it. There was a study done by Edelman that showed that 80% of adults believe that CEOs should drive change rather than waiting for government to impose it. And as a result, we're seeing a raft of businesses and brands taking action, from large organisations like Waitrose and their recent Pick for Britain campaign, which is, you know, all about a call to arms for volunteers to help ensure a more sustainable, protected food supply in the UK due to labour shortages, as well as a massive increase in B Corp certified businesses who ultimately use business as a force for good. Many of these B Corps are in the food space, such as Ella's Kitchen. It's a lovely homegrown company from Oxfordshire who partnered with Fair Share, who are a company fighting hunger and tackling food waste, to provide 100,000 meals for kids in poverty. So I think, you know, you've got to think about brand, what is your purpose? And how are you sharing and storytelling that purpose to your audience? And I think, you know, that's going to be even more important as we go forward. And my final kind of point and observation and trend is this rise of hyperlocal. And I think it's been so inspiring to see the determination and passion of local business and entrepreneurs and communities coming together to support each other during this period. Because the shops, restaurants, cafes are closed, businesses are having to shift to more direct-to-consumer models. And this has enabled local retailers and new business opportunities to pop up, and I think that's really exciting. I've got two examples which I wanted to share that I've witnessed firsthand, and the first is in my village of Longworth, where I've discovered the most amazing local baker who's straight out of cook school at Ballymore. She set up a bakery from her kitchen and she advertised it on a local WhatsApp group that we had. She's now supplying many of the villagers with the most incredible sourdough, far better than my attempts, and amazing pastries 3 times a week, and bringing joy to many. So it's great to see these talented entrepreneurs use this situation as an opportunity to grow. And the second example is actually a company that I've been volunteering my time for. I've been with them today, actually, packing food boxes, which is a local community cooperative called Cultivate, who work with Oxfordshire's best ethical organic food producers, farms, growers and food brands to offer them a route to market through the delivery of fresh fruit and veg boxes, which can be ordered online. Before COVID, they were distributing about 40 boxes a week. They're now delivering over 300 boxes a week, with new customers continuing to sign up. So I think, to end on a positive note, I think we're seeing a full circle shift in our love affair with food, where food can connect communities and bring joy to those around us. And it's really up to all of us to take the future into our own hands and build back better, you know, a phrase that's being used a lot by the government. And really, you know, to slow down, to support local, to eat more sustainably, and to use technology in positive ways to accelerate that change. Before I sort of sign off, I wanted to share my favourite cookbook at the moment that I'm really enjoying, which is written by the founder of Rouge Health, which is called Eat Right. It's got some amazing sort of artisan food techniques for the modern world. So this is where my failed attempts with sourdough came from, but there's also recipes around making your own kombucha, kefir, pickling, all of that sort of stuff. So if you're into that, I'd highly recommend it. The second is my sort of favourite local produce at the moment, which is elderflower, which is abundant in our local hedgerows at the moment. It makes amazing elderflower cordial, perfect in a G&T, and it pairs beautifully with strawberries. So there we go. I'll sign off there.